Alright, everything looks good enough. Hey, the bits are refalling. Alright, so, let's talk about this. Did we beat this spoiler-free? Yeah, we did. Other than the 2 hours that I played prior, we beat it spoiler-free. Oops. I chose the wrong one. Music rating. Alright, this, I kind of hate starting with this. This is going to be really difficult. So the music in the game itself is good. It's actually really good. Some of the tracks are really, really, really good. But I don't know if I can rate an OST based on not getting to hear it. Or if I get to hear it at all, I get to hear it very, 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 very rarely. Like, you honestly do not get to hear the good tracks in this game enough. You just don't. It's got the, and it's got the same battle theme constantly. Many of the areas of the game don't even actually have music. So, it's hard for me to give it a high rating. It really is. It just... the music that's good though is so good. It's very difficult. I don't know that I can accurately rate this because I liked a lot of the music in the game. Am I gonna rate the OST for how I really felt about it overall, or how I enjoyed it through the experience of the game? And I think I'm gonna focus on the experience of the game that I got from the OST, and in that regard, the OST just was not there enough. It just wasn't. You hear more footsteps and stuff like that than you do anything else. So I'm gonna give it credit because it's good, but I'm gonna definitely dock some points because it's not at the right parts in this game. It's just not. It's not where it needs to be. It's not there enough. There's too many really epic tracks that play during cutscenes and that's it, and then you have nothing else. In fact, there was just more OST in general with the cutscenes than there was in the game at all. And that really affects people's experience. It really made some of the areas I just kind of wanted to get out of them because there was nothing other than battles to really deal with and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it a 6. I feel like the OST overall is about like I'm gonna say maybe a 7 or an 8. I really like it, but for the experience of the game, I have to take some points away from it. I really do. It just, you can't. There's no reason for something like that when you have this good of an OST. This is a 2-hour long OST. Over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 11 minutes. That's a lot of songs to not use. To only use basically, I want to say maybe you got to hear 5 or 6 tracks during the actual game, and that's it. That's a little sad. I don't know how acceptable that is. It's definitely not acceptable to me in that regard. So yeah, that's probably the hardest OST I've had to rate because I really do like the OST, but it doesn't fit the game. You're better off listening to it outside of playing the game. Than just trying to play through the game and enjoying it in that regard. So the graphics for the era. The graphics, I didn't play a lot of PS2 games, but the graphics didn't look bad. There wasn't a whole lot of enemies in the game, and the enemies that were there, they were kind of like, they were pretty similar. I mean, when you're doing like random, obscure, alien type things, all you gotta do is put blobs and stuff like that all over the place. So I can't really attest to like how good they looked. Some of them definitely looked creepy or scary. The areas of the game, they were kind of okay. There was nothing special about them. They definitely fit the scenario, and they fit kind of like the story of the game. But again, there wasn't a whole lot of areas in the game. Battle system looked really good. A lot of the attacks were kind of looked like they were going to be something really cool with this like epic lead up with the cinematic, but then the attacks overall didn't kind of pan out for me in some cases. Some of them did. It looks like they focused very, very heavily on Cosmos, however you want to say it. I mean, the game says it one way, I've always said it another. All of her attacks were really like, there was more focus on her, let's just say that. But the game was pretty. I mean, and you can't not talk about the cinematics. It was basically a movie. It really was. There's hours of cutscenes. That's longer than movies that are out there with constant graphics and stuff like that. And I want to say that stuff looked good. I'm sure the other games are going to look better and better as time goes on. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 7. I liked it for what it was. It looked good. During the cinematics and stuff like that too, we had really good tracks playing. But of course that has nothing to do with graphics. Okay, story here. So I get the general idea of what we were going for, but not why we were doing it, why anyone was doing anything, and this game definitely has the syndrome of, it's one game in a series. Of course you're going to know that going in when it says it's episode 1, but it played out like that. There's crucial details and stuff like that that are just left out. They're intentionally left out because you're going to get them in another game. So not only is the story complicated because it gets very philosophical and stuff like that, and if you don't know like basic philosophical aspects and things like that and religious aspects, you're going to miss out on a whole bunch of things that are references to stuff, or it's supposed to sway your way of thinking. You're supposed to compare it and contrast it to other things, other experiences, other philosophies and things like that. And that's always hard to do when you're just sitting and trying to enjoy a game, when you're not just like stopping at the end of the game and really trying to think about it. It's hard to pick up on that type of stuff. So it becomes unnecessarily complicated, but I feel like they're going to try their best to make it cool, good, interesting, finished, all that in the other episodes. But that's the problem with the first episode in a 3-part thing. I feel like whenever you start something like this, you're going to leave a lot to be desired in the story. You're going to focus more on building the characters, building the surrounding areas and stuff like that, and that's about it. But this game didn't even do that much. The relationship between Xion and Cosmos is so awkward. I mean, of course she's just a robot, but like a lot of it kind of feels just awkward and forced. Like her constantly saying, listen to me, but she's never going to listen to her and things like that. They were really trying to show that she obviously cared for her, and that was a lot of the focus. The same thing with Junior and Momo, Ziggy caring about Momo and stuff like that. But some of the other characters just kind of were there. We don't know what's going on with Chaos at all, other than the fact that he's very weird and has some type of interaction with that Nephilim girl. There's a lot going on, but it's honestly, I feel the same way I did about Trails, where I feel like this is a starter game, and that's really it. It was the start of a series. They had no intentions of making it really a finale or feeling anything, which is why they had to have that epic moment of blowing something up at the end. What did blowing up that thing do, other than, yeah, we saved the place, but why did we go there? What were we stopping? What was all this type of stuff that was going on? I'm guessing that he could have done really, really bad things with that if we didn't destroy it and go up, but it's none of it's expressed, but I'm sure it's all interlinked. But because it's more so, like, just spread out between 3 chapters, I don't feel like the first game really got the story that it deserved. But I will give it credit for focusing a little bit on the characters and at least introducing us to some of these characters. I hope they're in the next game. I'll be a little bit disappointed if we just get to the next game and it's just Xion and Cosmos. I'll be really disappointed in that regard. So I'm going to go ahead and give the plot a 6 as well. It just didn't do a whole lot for me. There were, during some of the cutscenes and stuff like that, there was epic stuff. There were some scenes and things like that where I was a little bit, like, on the edge of my seat or interested or even, like, thought stuff was messed up and things like that. And that stuff was conveyed very well. But over an overarching story and just, like, what was going on at any point in time in the game, it's just, it's out there. And a lot of his stuff is, if you've ever played Xenogears, but I feel like even Xenogears was a lot easier to follow, even though it changes the pace of the game between the first disc and the second disc. Xenoblade Chronicles as well was a lot easier to follow than what this one was. Again, I feel like a lot of that has to do with them intentionally keeping information away from us because there's going to be 2 other chapters of the game. The credits just left so many more questions than I already had. It answered nothing. I got no answers in this game, and that's a problem for me. Alright, so, mechanics of this game. I feel like the mechanics, if I understood them better, would be more interesting. So, a couple things I might have figured out, but I'm not 100% sure. First of all, I did not know that there was 3 sets of points to use. I did, but I lost track of it because I never had enough skill points or accessories to do anything with. So I never did those, and I don't really know that they came too much in handy. It was almost like a thing you didn't need. You were just better off equipping the 3 accessories instead. The idea was to have as many abilities as possible while equipping 3 accessories, but the better abilities and stuff like that weren't till later on anyway. So other than equipping scope so I could see the HP of all the bosses, I didn't really care so much what my other accessories were, just as long as they either increased damage or were good for that particular fight. The leveling, I don't even know if you gain stats through leveling. I have no idea. My characters didn't feel like they got stronger when they leveled. I feel like I gained some EP and I gained some HP, but other than that, I don't feel like I got stronger. I probably did. Your stats probably went up ever so slightly. But then you had the ability to increase your stats with tech points, which is what I really focused on earlier in the game. I saw that I could cap my abilities for my characters and things like that, so it made sense to increase them because I did not have enough points. And I figured later on I'd make points quicker, so I was focusing on using some points early and things like that. But I didn't notice a big increase in damage, even when I capped out my abilities to where they could go. So I did not focus on my actual attacks until later on, and I think that that's where you should really focus. At least early, it would make a lot of battles easier if you had the ability to spam your attacks without 6 AP, if you could spam them every turn, because that's where your significant damage comes from. But I wasted a lot of points on trying to increase my stats, and it just didn't really pan out. The game doesn't really express this, and it does not express, like, mathematically what 1 point does, and the caps. The caps change throughout the game. I would have, like, 40 strength was my max, and then later on it would be 45. The characters had to somehow be tied together. I don't exactly understand how it worked, but I know it changed a few times, and whenever it changed for characters, it changed for everyone, and they all had the same cap. So they were somewhat tied together, but it was never really expressed and didn't really make sense to me. So I didn't really get to experience that to its fullest either. But definitely putting points into attacks helps. And then you have the ether abilities. Not being able to see what ability you're going to get until you have enough points to try and evolve it really made me not even care. I did not care to see what all the abilities were because it took forever to get the points, and I just focused on the here and now. If I had enough points, I used them, I picked an ability, but I couldn't plan ahead. And why have a system like that if you're not going to let a person plan ahead at all? So, and then the leveling between the characters. Somehow, after, like, bosses, not after going through areas and stuff like that and getting experience, at least it didn't seem like it, but after bosses, my characters would catch up on levels. I don't know if they were catching up on levels based on not being in my party at that particular moment or what the reasoning behind it was, but that would happen. And, so I didn't have to level those characters, but they also didn't get points, so I didn't get to spread those points across. And you guys know me, I don't grind a whole lot, so I definitely wasn't going to grind out every character to see what types of abilities and stuff they had, so I pretty much used the same party for the most of the game, switching in Junior on occasion. That's about it. But Chaos, it gave some extra good healing and did some good spirit damage, so I went with that. So let's actually talk about the just going around the game and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of maps in this game. There's not a whole lot of actual playtime. The puzzles and stuff like that were okay. They weren't difficult. They weren't very interesting. The whole game revolves around you using this ability to blow things up, and there's either items hidden behind it, enemies hidden behind it, or you solve puzzles with it. But there was nothing really interesting about any of the areas that you were in. You were just basically waiting for cutscenes. Other than the last area there, we were getting a little bit of information about the characters and stuff like that. But every other dungeon just kind of felt like it was there. And some of them didn't even make sense, like being inside of a Gnosis and things like that. Which, speaking of the Gnosis, they are probably some of the weirdest enemies. They're supposed to be like the big bads, but they're not. Like, we're treating them like it the whole time, but even from the start of the game on, you're just like, well, there's stuff stronger than them. But then the game wants to make them this overly threatening thing constantly. And when you see people that are just stronger than them that can destroy them and things like that, it loses that whole first few hours of the game where you're like getting destroyed by them and things like that. They just become this thing where it's like, yep, I'm going to fight them all over the place. They were the threat of the world, but apparently they're not. And that led to the boss fights then, which we'll talk about mechanically. the battle system overall was pretty fluid. I feel like the battles were kind of set up to just drain resources. Almost every single enemy you ran into had some type of AoE attack that did decent damage. Of course, you can compensate with it with healing, and items weren't too expensive, but you don't get a whole lot of money from killing enemies. So keeping stocked up on resources if you were to try to fight every fight probably would have been really difficult. But yeah, bosses just seem there to, or not bosses, but enemies just seem there to just wear you down. They didn't give very good experience, especially early on. They didn't give any type of points or anything like that. They just wore you down. There was no real use to them, so I just started avoiding them very quickly. Not to mention that the battles are incredibly long. And some people might want to say that's because I was under leveled, but even early on in the game, when I was fighting every single battle, the battles were still really long. I feel like the eggs were kind of just there. They were there because it's a Xeno game. I didn't really see any use for them. You had to spend so much money to make them stronger, and their damage was maybe acceptable in comparison to what I could do with other characters. So I didn't focus on them at all. I tried to use them on occasion, but they die so quickly, and I didn't feel like spending the money to make them stronger when I could spend the money to buy more resources and progress further in the game. Which finally brings me to the bosses with the mechanics. The bosses in this game I have a problem with. This game was trying to go with this approach of, let's make these bosses puzzly. Let's make it so that they're not just like, this one's got 20k health and does these types of attacks and stuff like that. They mechanically break the game. Like, they do things that you cannot do. And I'm not just talking they do an attack that you're never going to get or anything like that. That's in every game. They use boost whenever they want. They counterattack even if they don't have boost. There was one boss where I did absolutely nothing for a long time and the boss didn't hit me at all, but was still able to boost 2 turns in a row to do something. So I feel like the bosses were just, they were there because they had to be. Every boss did massive, again, AoE damage, and the whole focus all the time was just build up your AP, build up your boost, deal some damage. There was really nothing to it. But then they had a few bosses that were only weak or could only really be damaged by certain attacks. And you have no way of knowing that going in. There was one particular boss that switches phases halfway through the fight. In the first fight, you can hit it with both physical and magic attacks, but then it switches to a flying enemy. And the flying enemy is only... It took damage from the ether attacks, but it could only really take damage from physical attacks. And there is no ranged physical attacks on half the characters. Half the characters, if you're going to do a physical attack or a strength attack, you have to be near them. And since it was a flying enemy, I couldn't. So my party was shot on the second phase of the fight, and there was no way to know that that was going to happen. I haven't been introduced to something like that in the game before. At any point in time, I was at least able to do decent damage on flying enemies as well. So the fight was basically over before it started, but I didn't know that until I spent 20-30 minutes on getting the first phase down. And that's the way a lot of the bosses were. They just had this goofy, weird mechanic that you don't figure out until you're fighting the thing for a significantly long period of time, wasting a whole bunch of resources and stuff like that. And then halfway through the fight, you realize, well, now that I know this is going to happen, I might as well just reset the game, save on resources, and I know what to do. And to me, that's a bad approach for any type of boss in a game. If you just feel like, this is bullcrap, I can do much better now that I know what this boss does, what its gimmick is and things like that, I'm just going to reset the game. You should never feel like that when you're in a game. It should be about experiencing it, getting past it, accepting the challenge and things like that. And I didn't really feel like the bosses did that for me. They just became this tedious mess of, can I keep my characters healed up or can't I, as I slowly whittle this boss down. And again, you might be able to say that leveling up a few times would have helped that, but I feel like the spending of my tech points in better ways would have been more beneficial than levels. But of course, that's not something you know unless you play through the game. So mechanically, I'm going to say it overall was a pretty sound game, but because of the 3 different leveling systems that you can do, how they're poorly explained, the long ass battles, and the very, very just mediocre bosses by any means for what they were going for, I was really disappointed because I normally look forward to bosses in games. I'm going to go ahead and give the mechanics a 6 as well. Alright, grinding. I did not grind at all in this game, other than playing poker at the end there, I guess. Which I'm glad I did, because that gave me a whole strategy to do things. I almost wish that I did that earlier in the game, and I would have had something like that earlier in the game, but I didn't think there was going to be an item like that. And if I did think there was going to be an item like that, I figured it was going to be a lot harder to get, or take a lot longer, which is why I don't invest time on those types of things normally. But I was able to get that after about 20 minutes, and there was even other items I probably could have gotten to make things early or better too. What's up, Lime Biscuit? So I feel like I didn't grind at all, and I have to give it credit there. However, the boss fights take so damn long. And you could almost say a few of them are a bit unfair with the AoE damage and stuff like that they do. But I have to give it credit because it did not have a lot of grinding in it. And I avoided almost 90% of the battles at the end of the game, and I still was able to beat it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8 in that regard. Alright, so overall, the game's slightly above average for me. I am somewhat invested in the story. I'm curious. I don't really know what's going on, but I know enough that I'm interested to see where the rest of it goes. I'm a little bit worried because everyone says that the second game is really, really bad, but I'm still curious. Maybe that curiosity will die very quickly, but I'm interested in the series, just like I was when I bought them back in the day. But there are definitely mechanics and aspects to these games that I'm worried about. Especially the whole being tedious aspect, I feel like is going to be something that just goes with all of them. I'm sure they'll learn from their mistake and there'll be less cutscenes and actually more gameplay and things like that. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Alright, that's 18. Altogether, that's like, in my mind, it's about close to a 6.5 or so. It doesn't quite go up to a 7. And you guys know I don't round up mine, or I don't put 6.5s or anything like that. I keep it to solid numbers. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6. It's about a 6.5 maybe in my mind, but I'm going to give it a 6. There were aspects of the game that I enjoyed or thought I was going to enjoy, but again, it was pretty much a movie. It really was. We were watching way more than we were playing. At least it felt like it. Alright, let's see what you guys rated it. And again, thank you for taking the time out to vote. I really appreciate it. It's always interesting, again, to see what you guys think of everything. It's not just about me. Alright, let me do some math here. Alright. Looks like overall you guys gave it a 7. That's pretty close to what I was giving it as well. Like I said, I about 6.5, 6.5 for me. Will I replay this? No, I won't. And there's a few reasons for it. Because, for one, there's just aspects that I wouldn't want to redo. And I feel like you get the experience from watching the cutscenes anyway. So if it's like a year or two before I play Xenosaga 2, then I might rewatch the cutscenes, but I'm definitely not going to replay this game at any point. It wasn't quite there for me. I will definitely listen to the OST again. That's definitely something that's going to happen. In fact, a few of the songs that are on this OST are probably going to go on one of my list, but yeah, not likely. But would watch the movie. Alright, so what's today? It is the 3rd of April, 2018, and it took us 31 hours, 34 minutes, and 0 seconds to beat that. Alright guys, that means you know what time it is. It is raffle time. If you're new to the channel, all you have to do is type in the word raffle. It gives you a chance to win and pick the next game that I play. Everyone has an equal chance of winning. And this list here, all you gotta do is take a look at the list and you can go ahead and get your game ready for if you win. Again, there's plenty of RPGs on this list. So if you're here for Xenosaga and you like the series, there's 2 other games. If you like some of the other newer RPGs that have come out recently and stuff like that, they're more than likely on the list. Unless it hasn't been out for a month yet, then it's definitely not on the list. But again, everyone has an equal chance at winning. This is a fun way for me to not have to pick the next game I play and kind of have it picked for me. There is one other feature. If Nightbot manages to win, I'll have a list of 5 games and we'll have a straw poll and you guys will be able to pick between those 5 games. And whatever gets the highest amount of votes amongst the 5 picks, that would be the game. It's very unlikely Nightbot wins, but there's a chance. It could happen. That's my way of making a list of like 5 games that I really want to play, and it'll probably happen eventually, at least once. But again, we've got plenty of games on this list. There's pretty much any RPG you could think of, it should be on this list. So I highly recommend, even if you lurk, even if you're new, type in the word raffle and give yourself a shot. See if you win. I always try to do like a quick scroll through to make sure that everyone that typed the word in gets in. And I always try to at least give a few minutes for people, just in case people got up and like went to the bathroom or got a drink or something like that because they're sick of hearing my voice talk about a game. Yeah, I do definitely have to take a day off to update the list. Anytime I take days off work and stuff like that, I end up getting called to do something. I end up spending my time on that, and I definitely have to focus on the list at some point. We're not that far behind. It could be worse, but... yeah, you're no longer a meme, man. You are here. You are here for the raffle. Alright guys, I think you guys have waited long enough. Thank you for everyone that stuck around. I know this is the moment that a majority of you are waiting for, so good luck everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ultra Otaku, congratulations, man. Congratulations. I'm not sure if you have a game picked already. You got about... Well, you give a certain amount of time to make your pick, but at the very least, if you can, let me know that you're there so that I know that you're still there. Oh wow, that was a pretty quick pick. No thought needed whatsoever. That was a very fast pick. Okay, game 49 then. It's going to be Legend of Legaia. And it was picked by Ultra Otaku. First time played? Yes. Why does it always type text in white? Alright then, we got our next game. Let me go ahead and mark this green. Okay, so the next game is The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, second chapter, I believe it's called. I believe Eltanin picked both of those now. I can't remember. Yep. So Eltanin picked the first one, and now he's picked the second one. More than likely, I'll start that tomorrow. It really depends on how work and stuff like that goes, but I definitely like to start it tomorrow. If not, it'll be Thursday for sure. And then after that, we got Legend of Legaia, picked by Ultra Otaku. So yeah, get excited for that, guys. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very curious as to where the Trails games are going to go, because I was kind of on the fence after the first game, so I'm curious to see where the second game's going to go. And we've had a little bit of a break in between it as well, so let's see what it's like. But anyway, as always, I'm going to find somebody to host, and since it's the end of the game, why don't we raid? And let's try and think of a message to say. Something related to Xenosaga that we can send and spam in someone's chat. Something fun, something interesting, something that maybe someone will kind of get the reference. Whatever you guys can think of. Let's see. Who is streaming? Alright. So, I'm gonna host background guy here. It looks like he's finishing up Ni no Kuni, so I'm not gonna stay around very long because I do not want to see anything related to the game because I haven't played it myself. But let's host BGG and let's type this. BGG, I need cleaning. He will get the reference. And you can spam any emotes if you have them, anything you want to do with it. But we are going to host background guy, and we're going to rate him. So let's let him know that we need cleaning, okay? Let's make him laugh. Let's get that BGG giggle out of him. Those are always fun. Alright. I want to see you guys spam, if you don't mind. It's always fun. Rating is always fun. It's a good way to support somebody. It's a good way to introduce you guys to somebody else. And it's definitely fun for me. So, yeah, spam it. Let's see what type of a reaction we get from him. If I can get to one of his emotes quick enough. Oh no. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
And it's kind of hard to grab them sometimes. This is the best raid message ever. My external appearance is down 5%. Shion, I need to be cleaned. What's up, Grayson? Thank you for the host in the raid, man. What's going on, dude? It's from Xenosaga. Crayson is doing this amazing project called the Grand JRPG Tour, where he plays through every JRPG you can imagine, one back to back over after another. And his current game, voted by chat, is Xenosaga. One of the things, the little victory speeches that Cosmos gives is my